following considerations by the Planning Commission of the town of Packlet. Rezoning of 471 North Highway 150 from Neighborhood General in G to Neighborhood Edge in E. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or against this proposed rezoning? Last call. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or against the proposed rezoning of 471 North Highway 150 from Neighborhood General in G to Neighborhood Edge in E? If there is no one else who would like to speak in favor or against the proposed rezoning, then I now close this public hearing. The public hearing is now open for the following considerations by the Planning Commission of the town of Packlet. Amendments to Chapter 3, Zoning Classification, Section 2, Table 1, and Section 3, Table 2. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or against the proposed rezoning?
I make a motion that we should table that. I have things that I probably need to sit and address to know for sure, and I've been trying to seek this information.
This is just the public hearing. So if anybody wants to say something for or against it, then we can go into the meeting and discuss that part of things.
Okay, you wanna wait? Okay.
If there's no one who would like to speak in favor or against the proposed rezoning, then I now close this public hearing. Now call to order the Planning Commission meeting, March 4th, 2024, the town of Packlet. Due to no chair or vice chair, I will call the meeting to order and conduct the meeting until a chairperson is nominated and approved by the commission. FOIA statement in compliance with the Freedom of Information Act. Notice of the meeting was submitted by fax to the Spartanburg Herald Journal, posted on the bulletin board in the lobby of Town Hall and on the town's website. Roll call. Ms. Lindens.
Present.
Ms. Burnt.
Present.
Ms. Pennell. Mr. Mitchell. Ms. Hardy.
Here.
Mr. Kennedy.
Here.
So we have 4 members who are here and 2 that are not. I just want to let you know that there was a resignation from another commissioner. The person has Kim Easler had resigned from the commission. She then changed her mind, but since she had already resigned at that point, it's up to council if they want to renominate her to the position. On to the appointment of chair and co-chair. Before we begin nominations, please raise your hand if you are interested in serving as chair of the Planning Commission. The term is for 1 year.
I might try.
You'd like to?
Try. Help.
I just have you, if anybody's interested, it kind of gives us a little idea of kind of moving forward on there. At this time, are there any nominations for the chair of the Planning Commission?
I'll nominate Diane.
A second.
I have a nomination by Ms. Burnt for Ms. Hardy. Do you accept this nomination?
I accept this.
Good.
Are there any other nominations? Is there a motion to close nominations?
Make a motion to close.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? I guess at this point, Diane Hardy, you are now chairperson of the Planning Commission. If you'd like, I can continue to go through it, or if you want to run it, you through the, vice chair, and then at that point, I'll let you run it, and if you need anything, you let me know.
Oh, I thought you was gonna continue.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Okay. At this time, are there any nominations, of planning commission for vice chair? The vice chair would serve in the absence of Ms. Hardy.
I'll go ahead, take it.
You nominate yourself?
Yeah, I'll nominate myself.
And I guess you accept it,
Yeah.
since you're, are there any other nominations? Is there a motion to close nominations for vice chair?
I motion to close.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? And now closed. Since you are the only one, Mr. Kennedy, you are now vice chair of
That's
the planning commission. The floor is yours. You can stay right there, you don't have to come up here.
Oh,
Me and
You will
Jeff.
have to get up. Or we can swap seats. That's up to y'all, if you wanna swap.
we good, I'm good, right?
Okay.
You can go. Oh,
We do have enough room if y'all wanna move over to these.
Yeah, the sun.
the sun be against our back.
Yeah, that might be
Here.
better. Let's stop staring at that. What do you think? Oh, you don't have to scoot, I'll go around you. You can stay right there.
Just a little louder.
Yeah, but it's blinds.
This is much better.
Was this your pen? If not, you just gained a free pen.
All right. Next thing on our agenda is consider an amendment to the zoning ordinance map 471 North Highway 150 from neighborhood zone NG to neighborhood edge NG. Any discussion?
I'm gonna make a motion to table that, and I have a reasoning behind that. Is it okay if I tell my reasoning?
You can do that.
Okay, so, in my training, I've come across in chapter 2, dealing with, zoning ordinances and zoning powers. And I wanna read this to y'all. A zoning ordinance is the primary tool available to a local governing body to help implement the plans for the future growth and development of the community as set forth in the land use element of the comprehensive plan. Before a local government can adopt a zoning ordinance, it must adopt the land use element, SC Code 6-29-720. And I have not had enough time to get responses yet from everybody, but I do not see that adopted. And I do not want to proceed with any kind of changing of zoning and whatnot until we have that solidified and in place to be sure that nothing can come back and say that, hey, we didn't do what we were supposed to do. So in lieu of that, I would maybe instead advise council to see if that's something that we do need to indeed adopt.
I'm not aware of this.
I know, cause I literally just found this in my training and everything. I haven't even had a chance. I tried to call earlier, but you know, that's something we definitely need to look at. Because I would hate for us to make actions and not have that in place properly first.
I agree with that, however, I also would hate for us to stop something when this may not be the case, because this is something I have not heard of before.
Okay, well, and I further have that we were supposed to put signs that abut the property on all signs notifying of the zoning change. That's also part of what's in the training, that we are supposed to appropriately notify. And the signs are not up there. There's not signs abutting to each property. And I don't know that, I know I asked you before, have we notified the neighbors? That property is literally almost touching a house. We need to make consideration that the person next door is aware that there may be a commercial tenant next to them. Do we know if they know that yet?
As far as I know, for our ordinance, it's just required that we place a sign on the premises before, at least 15 days before the public hearing, which we have done.
It doesn't specify what sign we need to have, and that supersedes the state law saying that we have to have the ones that abut.
I'm just telling you, we have a sign that's out there. It has a phone number for people to contact if they need additional information.
Okay, well,
Are you familiar with this property that? Oh, okay, cause
I
that was a
went there.
former business.
It's
What's
a
this?
commercial
it's,
building.
yes,
Yeah.
but it's not in a district that has commercial properties. That's the,
Well, it is, because there's a gas station two doors down from it.
but that's a different zoning district.
No, it's the same zoning district.
Patrick, will you?
So this is a request from Mr. Dennis Lovey, who owns the property. In your packet, you've got a copy of the application that is in there. Currently, the property is zoned as a residential zone, it's neighborhood general. The zoning change is to go to a neighborhood edge, which would be a transitional zone between more of a residential to a commercial area on there. And as of right now, the current zoning does not allow him to do anything but have a residence at that particular property.
Right, and that would also, if I'm correct in my thinking, that changes the house next to it that would be a residential, it would bring that.
No.
So we're spot zoning.
So it's just the property itself where just it looks like a commercial building. Just at 471 North Highway 150 is the property.
So the home to the left, that would be closest to the gas station, is that considered also the neighborhood general?
At this time it is.
Would it then become neighborhood edge?
No.
So we're spot zoning.
Spot zoning is more for commercial per se.
Well, that
This
is a
is
commercial
kind of a
property.
transitional area right here.
Okay, well,
And spot zoning is not illegal.
it's not frowned upon.
This particular property was built as a commercial property. It was built originally, from my understanding, as a florist.
Yes,
Mhm.
it was.
And it was built before the zoning ordinance went into effect. What ended up happening is after the last tenant moved out, our zoning ordinance state that, if they move out within a year, after that year's period of time, it reverts back to the, the zoning that it currently is. So it is a non-conforming building in that particular location. But once it vacates, and it's been a year that it's been vacant, then at that point it goes back to what that zoning the zoning that it's currently located in. So although it's a commercial building, it's in a residential area and it can only be a residence.
Can I add
So
something?
there's no conditions we can attach to it, like we can't make it conditional,
Conditional for,
that specific zone, we can't add a condition for that property.
I mean, you can do what you wanted to, just, what they're requesting right now is to change it from the current neighborhood general to the neighborhood edge, which would be an area where you could both do residential, it's a transitionary zone between two.
Right, and I 100% agree with that, but until we notify the other property that we're rezoning and be sure that we have law in place that establishes that we are able to do that, I think we should table it, but that's just my opinion, so that, I just would like you to know that.
Well, they were notified. Wasn't there already public hearings regarding that property? There were
There
signs
was,
out
but it
there.
was for a different rezoning.
Well, I know that Mr. Loving has been trying to do something with his property that he owns since November of 2022.
Okay.
So it's been 15 months that the town has been blocking him from being able to do anything with that property. Because it's clearly a commercial building. It's been nothing but commercial building. The town blocked the person that attempted to build out back from building a residential building at the back of the property. Everything's been run, and then they blocked him from doing that.
Well, didn't they have used to a trailer back there behind it at one time?
Well, they wanted to put something in there,
Yeah, no.
and the town blocked it years ago. This has been
Do we know
years.
why? Was it legality issues? Was it some kind of why they blocked it? I
They
mean,
decided no mobile homes in the town limits.
The last time it was requested to be rezoned, this commission approved it, and it was to change from neighborhood general to, I believe it was urban center,
Mhm.
which is more of urban center is the highest level of commercial that's on there.
For a car dealership.
It would be everything that's currently zoned on, number 9.
so is it going to be a car dealership? Because when I asked, nobody could tell me who the commercial tenant was or what the hours would be, considering that how close it is to a residence and what kind of hours of operations that this commercial tenant would be operating in. Does anybody know?
That's been off the table since, when was the last meeting for that? It's been a long time.
It was not stated in the application what particular type of business he's looking to have go there. But I do know that as of right now, he's not able to lease it to any type of tenant at all.
Well, he can. He can. It could be a bed and breakfast, it could be a rooming and boarding house, it could be an ATM, it could be a child adult daycare, but none of those things would, it could be a gas station, but not a retail store. The ordinance makes no sense at all. You can it's conditional to be a gas station. That would involve the EPA and all these other government agencies, but not a little office building or a restaurant or something that would make more sense to be in that location, a little retail store, but you could put a gas station there.
I like what you're saying there. That's what I was asking about making conditions and things. Are there things we can change?
These are all the things.
Without rezoning everybody, you know?
Well, see, here's my problem. So if it's rezoned to neighborhood edge, according to our ordinance, this makes no sense. You could put a retail space in there of 50,000 to 100,000 square foot.
So that.
But you couldn't put a little 500 square foot retail building there, according to our ordinance.
Then we need to adjust our ordinance.
It needs
Yes.
a huge overhaul,
Yes.
our ordinance.
We'll get to that later on in the rest of the meeting,
Yes.
which I completely agree with you on that.
So
I
the
get-
permitting thing, so they could have a religious institution, public safety station, a cemetery. I'd rather have a store than a cemetery next to me. Recreational facility,
If you look
post
in,
office,
what she's referring to, if you pull up, page 10 and 12, the zoning ordinance, Don, I believe.
Oh, yeah, I got mine. I picked mine up.
Okay. If you look on page 10 and 11, currently it is under NG, under table 3, permitted uses NG, is neighborhood general, and the P's on there are permitted, C's on there are conditional, based off of section 6. And what he is looking to go is from NG to the NE.
I guess that's where I'm trying to understand the motive. Like, if we don't know the commercial tenant, but there's still all these other options for him to use the property in certain ways, like what is the goal by going to neighborhood edge? As you said, you can end up
more
owning-
options. So
But-
he has
but-
more options. These options, who's gonna put any of those things in that location?
But you're talking also about the ability to build a bigger building in between two residences, and that's giving somebody a lot of leeway in a residential area when that's that close to
Even
another
have to
home.
have building permits approved and all that good stuff if he was to build it bigger. So you still got him.
And it's a long, narrow lot. It's not.
Well, it used to be a flower shop.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a TV thing or,
But I think his goal is he wants to have more options, to be able to lease it out for different businesses, rather than what it currently is permitted to, the permitted use.
So we're gonna favor what one man wants at his commercial property as opposed to hearing out what the residences surrounding the property would wish for that to be.
We just got through
Who's that?
talking about that, they had options to come here.
Okay,
In fact,
would y'all
which I
like to see
didn't.
the picture of the sign that y'all are referring to? Because I went and took pictures of the property today, and the sign's not even facing out towards the road, it's actually facing up against the building, and I wouldn't have even known if it was there that I hadn't pulled in and actually looked at it.
Okay, so if it's facing the neighbors.
It's not facing the neighbors, it's butted up
Next to
against
the
the brick
building?
wall. There's no way you could even read that sign from the road,
But you're talking about the neighbors on both sides.
and they can't see it because the brick building's in the way.
What brick building?
The building itself, it's tucked into an alcove of the building, on the outside part of the
In
building.
the front?
Yes,
In the front,
Yeah,
okay, cause you said on the side.
So it's
It's-
facing the road?
no, here, I have it.
They have it in the only place that it can be put,
Yeah, cause it's paved.
because it's all paved, because it's a business. So there's two buildings and there's a little alcove that sits about 3 feet back between.
And there's no way that anybody could see this unless they walked right up on it. I mean, it's not visible. And I have no issue with getting that up and running into something, but we have to give consideration to the people that are beside that, and I don't know that we've done that appropriately or as efficiently as we can. And so, okay, the road, 150 goes this way. The sign is going this way, up against the building on the brink.
It's in that little, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
It's in that
like you
little
cannot see.
patch of grass that's in that alcove.
Yes.
The only place that you can put it.
Facing a brick wall and not street facing. Not where I could even read the sign, or know it was there, or know what it was there for.
How long has that sign been there?
A long time.
So how would they
And
know that
the
that was
neighbor- Miss McGowan was at the meeting to approve, I believe, the change the last time. The house that's closest to the building.
So they've always been used to having a business.
Well, that
in
property used to be
area.
owned
Yeah.
by
Them,
that house
yeah,
originally.
Mhm.
yeah.
And then I think the woman passed away or whatever, and they split the property, the commercial and the residential, split those up.
That's what I thought, they always owned it and then they sold it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, ultimately, we have to make a decision, and regardless of our decision, it still has to go before council. So, I mean, I'm opposed to it, but we can still put it to a vote, obviously, whether or not we wanna put it to council, so.
You can make a motion to approve, you can make a motion to,
I'm gonna make a motion to
Table.
approve because Mr. Loving has been waiting since November of 2022 to do something with his property. And I know that at one point we pushed through for Mr. McGuire. At one point, pushed through for him, and I feel like nothing's being done for Mr. Loving in this property.
is there a second?
Okay, a
I'll
motion.
second it, cause I'm very familiar with the property and the history. Cause I was on the original zoning committee a long time ago.
So.
All in favor?
mm,
All opposed? Carries.
Okay, the next is.
Can we do it?
So we're,
You go ahead, you read it. You're the chair.
okay, the next thing on the agenda is consider an amendment to the Packard zoning ordinance, chapter 3, zoning classification, section 3, table 2, dimensional requirements.
You turn to your zoning ordinance, page 8. Part of where this has come up, and this will give you a two-part, but we'll first start off with this. Under neighborhood village, the current setback, the minimum setback, is 6 feet. So at the edge of a property, you cannot build until you get to 6 feet. So if someone builds right on the line or 4 feet off the line, that'd be in violation of the ordinance on here. There's some homes that have recently been built in the mill area that are very close to the lot line. And this is a potential way to restrict some of that in the future, is to change this from a 6-foot setback to a 10-foot setback, which most of the homes in the mill village are. Now, there are some properties where they get really close on there. It would not allow that in the future, but if anything that's currently there would not be able to encroach more than 10 foot, but that's up to you in terms of what distance y'all think is appropriate there.
Is it the county 12-foot? Setback
Excuse me?
requirement for the county is 12 foot,
No,
I believe?
it's currently the town capital.
No, I know that, but is the county is 12-foot setback requirement, isn't it?
So there are some areas within the town of Packlet where there is 0 setback, where they can build on the line.
Mm-hmm.
We are directly referring to neighborhood village though, right?
Mhm.
We're correct, yes, that's correct.
Specifically,
Yeah.
there. So, you're saying the standard, like, for a typical mill home is about 6 feet right now?
So what's happened is the home itself, now, a lot of the homes in the mill area have added on.
Okay.
But the home itself, if you had a 10-foot setback on there, it would currently be in keeping with all that. But some of the homes have increased their footprint size. Some in the mill village actually have extended their footprint to within 2 feet of the line, which is currently in zoning, in violation of the zoning ordinance. But it depends on when that was done, because the zoning ordinance was approved back in 2014, I believe.
Is the setback
Yes.
starting from the road or the sidewalk?
So this is the setback as it relates to the side setback between the homes on there. So
Oh, in between
Mhm.
them?
yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I should have made
I
that.
was
There's a
thinking
front
the setback.
setback is 5 foot
Setback from the
and a
side.
maximum of 15
Back.
foot, and the side setback is a minimum of 6 foot.
Oh, so the two homes could be within 6, yeah, that's way too small.
Are you familiar with these houses up here that were
Yes,
just built?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So with
Okay.
a 6-foot setback, you could have 2 homes the building of the homes would be 12 feet apart.
Okay, yeah, I think we need to definitely up that for sure. So you're suggesting at least how much?
I'm suggesting to change it to 10 foot.
So I hadn't seen those homes, are they,
Oh,
are they,
You in for a treat?
The ones that are up on stone are they had to be a minimum of 6 foot, and they are right at 6 foot.
Very close. It's right up at the end here.
Yeah, they're right up here, back to your left, Stone Street. You'll see them on the right.
I think we should change it to at least 10 feet.
If you want, I can go on to number 7, as it kind of all relates to a lot of this whole thing. And we can come back to this if you'd like. Is that okay with you,
Where
Madam
are we
Chair?
going to?
okay, are we coming back to it today?
Yes, we'll come back to it today.
Okay.
The other thing was consider amendment in Packlet zoning ordinance, chapter 3, zoning classification, section 2, table 1, zoning provisions. If you look at your zoning ordinance, page 9, as of right now, the minimum lot size in neighborhood village, neighborhood general, and neighborhood edge are both 8,000 square feet, except for neighborhood village high density, which is 4,000 square foot. There's not a clear definition of what the difference in this particular zoning for for high density and the low density on here, or the high density and the medium density. The maximum lot size is 12,000 square feet in Neighborhood Village, 10,000 square feet in Neighborhood Edge, and 12,000 square feet in Neighborhood General. And one of the things I'm suggesting on here is the change is to remove the high density residential in Neighborhood Village and to remove the maximum lot size in all three districts. The reason being, I'll give you an example. Actually, we're getting lots of examples. Actually got another example today. If you own a property within Neighborhood General, Neighborhood Edge, that is currently an acre, and you want to split it off and give the other property to someone else, you can't. An acre is approximately 44,000, 45,000 square feet. Dividing that up makes it approximately about 22,000 square feet, 22. That is more than the 12,000 maximum. The problem we end up having is a lot of these properties don't have septic tanks. And so to be able to build out there, they're not able to have a septic tank on the lot they're currently on. Does that make sense? So council has already granted, actually the Board of Zoning Appeals already grants, one thing that I've learned from my training on there is that, and y'all probably gone through the training on there too, is that if the Board of Zoning Appeals is regularly approving variances for a particular item, it's time for the Planning Commission to kind of step up, review it, and see if it needs to be kept the way it is or needs to be changed. And this is coming into this situation. There's property currently on Spring Street that wants to divide up. It's a lot of approximately like 12 to 15 acres out there, and they're wanting to subdivide it into multiple tracts out there. But they would have to subdivide that property into, I believe it's gonna end up being 12,000 square foot lots. And most of them are looking at is 1 to 2, 3 acre lots, which is currently in violation of our zoning ordinance. This is one of those things, so another thing to think about, and we're gonna talk about this a little bit later on, there are a lot of issues and problems with the zoning ordinance. I don't think council at the time of the approval realized the concerns, the problems that this zoning ordinance puts in place. Which is why the council has currently contracted out with the Appalachian Council of Governments to redo and update the current zoning ordinance. As you'll go through here, you'll find a lot of things that just don't make sense, or it'll reference a condition that doesn't exist. It'll say, go check out this particular page, and you check it out, and there's nothing that has anything to do with the thing that you just looked at. There are many errors in here that need to be looked at and addressed, and it's very, very complicated in how this is done, and for such a small town, it needs to be looked at. But there have been groups that have come forward and that they are wanting to subdivide their property and they can't. I'll give you an example right now that's on Sunset, what's the address where the police station is? Sunset Drive, I believe. There's a house that's down there, and next door to the house is a vacant lot. The lot is the exact same size as the house beside it. The property owner owns both lots. One has a house and one doesn't have a house on it. One lot is the lot that they're currently on, and the lot that they're looking to develop is around approximately 18,000 square feet. They're in Neighborhood General. They have a house on a Neighborhood General 18,000 square foot lot, but the lot beside them, identical lot, identical to the rest of the lots in the neighborhood, our zoning ordinance does not allow for them to build a house there.
Because it's over 12,000 square feet?
What's this?
Because it's over the
Because it's
maximum?
over the 12,000 square foot maximum.
I guess the question comes in is if we up the maximum from 12,000 to a larger number, does it still limit the amount of residences that can be put on that property? Is it still like only one single family resident can be put on that property?
Unless our zoning ordinance allows for it on here, which there is a section on here for multifamily, 2,500 square foot minimum in the Neighborhood General for the first unit, 2,000 square foot minimum for the each additional unit that's out there.
So that's even smaller spaces. We wouldn't necessarily be dealing with larger.
Part of this was to try to, instead of having multiple developments coming before the Board of Zoning Appeals throughout this year until the zoning ordinance gets updated. This was a way to try to alleviate this for now until the zoning ordinance gets completely redone.
I guess my only concern is, like I said, I'm leaning towards like if you're gonna put a single house on there and up in the size of that, but if we up the size of it and then they try to squish 3 houses in there, are we gonna end up overdeveloping and, you know, or we haven't gotten through our comprehensive plan about like open air space and things like that. We don't want all that crammed in
Well,
before.
according to this, they can, right? The multifamily?
Yeah, under multifamily, under the lot area on there, they could actually do.
They could put 3 on under 8,000 square feet. Cause it's 2,500 square feet minimum for first unit, 2,000 square foot minimum for each additional. So you could put 3 units and that's only 6,500 square feet of property. So I feel like,
Circle that.
because let's go back to Dennis Loving's property, approximately an acre. So if he wanted to build a house there in neighborhood general, his property's too big, he can't. 8,000 square feet minimum to 12,000 square foot maximum. So he can build a house there if he wanted to, because our ordinance says it has to be under 12,000 square feet.
But yeah, he could
There
be
should-
allowed to put multiple homes there. Is that, like, are we understanding that
Apparently,
correct?
you
Are we
could put
understanding that
25
correctly?
for
Like
the
I said,
first
there are
unit.
many things that we need to update
Okay.
in our zoning
Yeah,
ordinance.
I think we need to circle that, cause we need to be
I think we need to
conscientious of
change
over-
that to maybe no maximum, because if someone has 100 acres, they should be able to build 1 house on it if they wanna build
Yes.
1 house on it.
Yes, I agree.
The Appalachian Council of Governments is gonna be starting on this as soon as we finish up the comprehensive.
I feel
plan
like
master plan.
I feel like the minimum should be 12,000 square foot lot, and the maximum should be unlimited maximum.
Yes.
I think 8,000 square feet is a very small lot. Cause how big are those lots up here where they put those 2 houses? They're
So
tiny.
The 8,000 would actually be, in the neighborhood village would be good. So currently, because there's no clear definition between high density and medium density, those actually are currently at about 5,000 square feet. Each one of those, they're up on stone, which they're above the 4,000 square foot minimum. So one of the things I'm recommending to y'all is that we get rid of the high density residential altogether. So that eliminates the 4,000 minimum that's on there, and make sure that all properties, all lots within this area have to be a minimum of 8,000 square feet.
Yeah, that
I
makes
agree.
sense.
I agree.
Yeah.
So do we?
Minimum of 4,000 or 8,000?
A minimum of 8,000 square feet.
Okay.
So do we need a motion? We need to,
Yeah, we need a motion.
I make a motion to, alter from the 4,000 to the 8,000 on the.
So what you're doing is just making the motion to eliminate the high density residential
Okay.
under neighborhood village, which is on the table 2 dimensional requirements. Is that what your motion is?
Yes, so we're just eliminating that so that therefore it'll just fall back to the medium density stuff and we'll just get rid of that, okay.
And it'll fall back to the medium density. So, there are 2 additional lots that are currently behind the post office. They're approximately the same size. And those would not be, and I'll have to check with our attorney and make sure, but it could prevent them from seeing additional small homes like that on those lots.
Yeah, yes, I motion to get rid of the high density residential.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
The medium density just in neighborhood village or across the board?
Just neighborhood village.
Can we change it across the board? Can we make a motion to change it across the board?
I would
Because
just hold
there-
off on it right now. The medium density currently is under the neighborhood village, and it's currently under village center. Village center is primarily the area where the mill used to sit, which
Well,
is
medium
currently.
density is also neighborhood general, according to this. It has medium density residential under that and village center.
I'm seeing that under, I'm not sure if we have the same thing.
Table 2, right? Neighborhood general, medium density residential, 8,000 square feet minimum to 12,000 max.
We're leaving that alone.
But it's under cluster developments there.
Okay,
Uh,
so
we're
this,
leaving the medium and we're just taking off this right here.
neighborhood village and neighborhood center?
I'm suggesting not to take it under neighborhood center, only because one of the main reasons is all that property, the majority of that property in that area is all owned by Packlet Milliken. I don't see them doing that. I would think, I would rather we look at that once the zoning ordinance comes around, after the comprehensive plan is done, with, Packlet Milliken is involved in. However, that is up to you.
So we're talking about village center, right? You're talking about the high density of the village center.
Village
Just
and
taking that out,
center.
really.
I feel like it needs to be changed across, all of it needs to, I mean, why not just deal with it now and change it now, instead of just this one high density residential?
What I was trying to explain is the area, if you look on your map where, if you look on your map, which is page 7, the, pink that's on there is your village center. And your village center is almost entirely, except for the cloth room, owned by Packlet Milliken, which has not developed any property since 1983. I would highly doubt that they would do anything between now and when we update the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
I would suggest holding off until the comp plan is done, because something that may come up in the comp plan may address lot sizes in those particular areas. It may be, and I'm just saying hypothetically, there could be a situation where you may wanna end up doing, say, tiny homes. And right now you've got a 2,500 square foot minimum there that you potentially could do that.
What about, for instance, if they decide to take the village center down here and add like restaurants and things, and how we see in Spartanburg, they have apartments that are above their restaurants and things. How would that impact that high density there? Like, is that something that would allow for that? Say, you know, we do have shopping and things that they decide to put below, but they also wanna have tenants above. How does that fall under residential stuff in this chart here in Village Center? Will the stipulations apply to that?
I'd have to do some further research on that. I would think that a lot of that information is gonna come out of the comp plan and master plan. And even though, only 2 members currently here are on that steering committee, one thing I want to let y'all know about is once the comp plan and master plan, right before they get done, they come before the planning commission for approval before they go to council. So you'll have a chance to look at it before it's adopted. And also you can fill out the survey that's currently out there, to put some information on there. And I'll see if I can also get the Appalachian Council of Governments and the, benchmark planning is doing the master plan to come and do a meeting with y'all, since some of y'all are new since that was when it first started. I don't want to discourage you away from doing what you're looking to do. I'm just telling you that you may not need to do that yet.
I
But
second the motion.
You're seconding the motion
I'll second the
to
motion.
remove, what are you seconding the motion of?
The high density residential 4,000 square feet,
I'd
isn't
already
that?
done that.
I believe that
Okay.
Mr. Kennedy already did that.
Okay,
All I need is, who's all in favor of that? Okay, it's unanimous. So right now, we're gonna take out the high density for neighborhood village. This will go before the, town council. They'll have 2 readings on that before it becomes, official ordinance. The other thing I was recommending on there was to remove the, maximum lot sizes for neighborhood village, neighborhood general, and neighborhood edge, as it relates to single-family detached homes. This would eliminate the current, variances that are coming before the Board of Zoning Appeals. Do y'all have any questions about what this is about?
So we're looking at
You look
the
confused.
well now, neighborhood edge only has low density, right? But the medium density in neighborhood general and the medium density in neighborhood village, we would be looking at just completely eliminating a maximum size, or are we going to make a larger size?
So what I'm proposing on here is that neighborhood edge, low density residential, instead of a 10,000 square foot maximum, that's removed, so there's no maximum.
No max.
I'm also suggesting that neighborhood general, medium density residential, 12,000 square foot max is removed, so there's no maximum there. And the neighborhood village, medium density residential, 12,000 square foot max is removed, so there's no max.
So do we need a motion on that? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to remove them.
Second.
Motion is moved and second.
You can say all in favor.
All in favor?
All opposed.
All opposed?
Okay. You wanna go back to, 6 on here?
Okay, we're back to number 6. Consider an amendment to traffic zoning ordinance, chapter 3, zoning classification, section 3, table 2, dimensional requirements.
This is, if you look back on, page 8 of your zoning ordinance, this was a suggestion, a proposal, to change the, 6-foot, setback on here to a 10-foot setback.
Why is that called setback? Looks like it'd be wet.
What's that?
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Instead of setback, it should be the width or in between houses or whatever you wanna call it. Something other than setback. Setback to me means here's your road, here's the setback.
Well, that's it is. So there's a setback, there's a front setback, there's a side setback, there's a rear setback that are on here as well.
Okay,
So there is a front setback. The current front setback for these particular areas is a 15-foot minimum on neighborhood edge, 10-foot minimum on neighborhood general, 5-foot minimum and a 15-foot max in neighborhood village. But between,
There you go.
and what ends up happening is if someone had added an addition onto their home, instead of putting it between the two homes, that ends up changing them. So if someone adds an addition, if their addition doesn't go beyond that setback and they're approved to do it, then if you did it by width, then your width would end up changing on there as well. So because your neighbor ended up doing an expansion, it may not allow you to do an expansion at that point.
Yeah.
Now, is this consistently across the edge, general, and village, or specifically one area again? I missed that.
What I'm just proposing, and it's mainly just for the homes that just recently been put in place, that would change that from the, currently it's at 6 foot. And moving it to 10.
So that's under neighborhood general and neighborhood village?
I'm saying under neighborhood village
Okay.
is the only one that I'm making this, suggestion to you guys.
We really give people more space. So
It's already densely populated, you don't want it anymore. I mean, if I lived in the Mill Hill, I wouldn't want it.
more space.
And y'all should also, if you haven't already, one thing that I can't wait is once we end up redoing town hall, which, I'm not sure if you've heard the plans. The plans are to end up having, the council dais will end up being across this way here, and they'll be facing back this way, and it'll be elevated so anybody out here in the public can see everybody that's up there. The other thing which is most important is we'll have TV screens, and so you'll be able to see what I'm talking about a lot better. And one of the things that I wish I could do right now is to show you visually some of these lots that are out there and how properties have built right up on the lots. And you'll see, there's some homes right now that are currently in violation of our zoning ordinance. Now, I don't know when that addition was built. That addition may have been built before the zoning ordinance was approved. You don't have to make a motion at all. You can say, listen, I wanna do some more research on this, you can table this, you can do whatever y'all want to.
So we're wanting to change it from 6 feet to 10 feet?
That's just
I
what I'm
make a
proposing.
motion to change it to 10 feet.
I'll second it for you, cause I've seen them.
Mhm.
All in favor?
Got you.
Okay, for number 8, Packlet zoning ordinance review, if you could turn to page 98, and if you'll indulge me, I'm going to read it to you.
Did you say
as many
page
of you
98?
are new. Was that
98?
page 98?
I didn't have that many pages. I did not write that far.
Tell me when you're all there. Just wanted to read this out in public so y'all have a chance to kind of think about this. As many of you are new, Planning Commission, Chapter 19, Establishment of the Planning Commission. The Town Council shall create a planning commission to advise the council of planning, land use, zoning, community development, and other matters as referred by council, as well as to review subdivision plats, if applicable. Duties will include 1, to review and make recommendations on the schematic design of all master plans. 2, to render opinions and make recommendations on all issues and petitions related to the zoning ordinance and other land use plans which may be adopted from time to time which require approval by town council. 3, a subcommittee of the Planning Commission shall review the zoning ordinance and make recommendations to changes to the full Planning Commission for its consideration and recommendation prior to the end of each calendar year. I bring that up because I want all of y'all to take some time and look through these booklets. We had these printed up a little bit nicer than the one that I've got, so y'all can kind of thumb through and kind of look at what you may want to change. As mentioned before, the zoning ordinance is currently being looking at change. The town recently approved a contract with the Appalachian Council of Governments to update the town of Packlet zoning ordinance. But I just wanted you to take some time to review the zoning ordinance and see what other alterations may need to be made in conjunction with what's been done here today. Starting next month, this is, if you think this is a terrible idea, I won't do it, but I think it'd be worthwhile. But starting next month, we'll begin reviewing the current zoning ordinance to suggest changes to be made. I've done this in other communities. We actually took the entire municipal code and went through it chapter by chapter. We actually did it with all the department heads would all sit down together and go through the entire thing so we're all aware of what's in there, what's not in there, and what may need to be updated. There's some sections that I've currently seen in the municipal code that need to be updated in other areas, but this may be a good opportunity for y'all to go through this as a group, and you may see some things, and other people may see some things that you didn't think of that say, hey, we need to look at this, we need to change this, or based on where we are right now as a community, this is something that needs to be updated. And so next month, we'll go through this and we'll start looking through this. I believe the next meeting is going to be, is it April 1st?
First Monday of the month.
Is that
April
right?
1st?
April 1st is the first Monday.
What's that?
April 1st is the
April
first
1st.
Monday.
So we'll do April 1st. We can do it again at 5:30, or if y'all want to wait till 6, it's up to you.
First 6, that's what I thought it was.
Would y'all prefer to do 6 or is it 5:30?
As daylight saving time comes out, yeah.
But if you want to go ahead and start reading the first few chapters on there, make some notes in the column. This is your book. I want you to write your name in it, just like you would do in high school, so everybody knows it's yours. But start going through it and looking at things that you want to have questions on or that you want to ask the group about. Some things that I have seen in here that there's a section, I believe it's on chapter 9, you don't have to turn to it, that starts talking about urban space than downtowns. The town of Packlet doesn't have a traditional downtown, as a lot of other communities do. There are sections in there. Give you an example would be the O'Reilly's Auto Parts. So, the building could not be built as it is today. Based on our zoning ordinance, if that area is considered a downtown setting. And so downtown settings have what's called zero lot lines, where the properties are right up against each other. The wall is the property line. And so our zoning ordinance would prefer that buildings like that built up against the road, right on the sidewalk, and that the parking lot is behind it. And so that may or may not make sense. To me, it doesn't really work well for that particular type. What's that?
Does any building in the urban center do that? I mean, they all seem
No.
to be front parking, so that makes,
As long as they were built before where the zoning ordinance was put into effect,
okay,
they're fine.
okay.
They're what's considered a non-conforming property on there. One of the things that recently came up, you'll probably notice, we had a situation with their parking lot. They had an asphalt parking lot, they tore it up. If they would have kept the parking lot intact, once they removed the parking lot and built a new parking lot, their parking lot had to adhere to our current zoning ordinance. Their parking lot, if they would have kept some part of the parking lot, it would have grandfathered itself in and they could have repaired it on its old grandfathered in parking lot. But you'll notice on there where there's shrubs that are against the road, you'll notice there's trees that are in the parking lot, there's bike racks that are on there, and you'll kind of see how the layout's been done, and that's because of your zoning ordinance. So it does look good, but it did create some limitations for them. We had to make a lot of updates when we were going through that process. Next thing on here is the planned Packlet update and survey responses. Including your packet is the last agenda of the steering committee. I want to get you to pay attention to there's an agenda. You don't see it in there?
Is it the comprehensive plan working group?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The main thing I wanted you to call your attention on that is just the timeline that's on there.
This is what
You'll see where it says PC July 2024, that's Planning Commission July 2024. So y'all will have to adopt it before it comes to council for final approval. But I wanted to let you know where we were in that process. We are trying to move it up a little quicker, to try to get it done quicker. But at the same time, still allow the public to have an opportunity to weigh in and review before it is put in place or finalized. The other thing that I wanted to bring your attention to is behind that is survey results. So there was a community development block grant that we were approved for, $50,000 to do a master plan as it relates to stormwater throughout the town. We had to do a survey for that, and so the results are more towards the stormwater project. But I wanted y'all to have a chance to look through those. And then the next section on there is there's a Town of Packlet Community Needs Assessment, and these are the responses based off of the planpacklet.com survey that went out. I wanted y'all to look through those as the Planning Commission is looking over the comp plan and seeing how the communities can be developed over the next 10 to 15 years, just to kind of get an idea of what the community is saying and what they're wanting, what they like, what they do not like. I think it's worthwhile to kind of look through that as you're helping to determine how we end up planning. So I'm not going to go through that. There are several pages there for y'all to review and look at.
So I have questions about the comprehensive plan, that like as far as it limits us, I know, in certain development and certain things, until that's in place, we can't begin on a lot of things, right? Like the stormwater system and things, cause I know we've talked about that before, I mean, there's clearly obviously a problem, but, I mean, that has to be finalized before we could even delve into that, or is it,
So just the comprehensive plan is how we want to grow, or how the town wants to see growth happen, over the next 15, 20 years. And it's, part of that thing is gonna be the land use, plan. It's gonna look at, that map that you saw earlier on in terms of your zoning. There may be areas that, make more sense to be changed in terms of zoning. One thing just to consider, and I'm not advocating for this for or against, but if you look on the map on there on 176, none of the property on 176 is commercial.
like, it's all
So
residential?
that may be something that if you or the town think, if you want to see growth happen on 176, which is typically where some of that stuff happens, is it needs to be changed to allow for commercial to happen there. If you think that 150 will start seeing some more growth in it, the property that y'all were looking at today may not be the only one that you want to go ahead and approve for the transitional zoning of neighborhood edge. You may want to look at some others in there.
Where does Central Catholic begin? That's, yeah, that's like, cause that
right
throws a
there.
whole like dent in that.
It's right
area
after
of
Turner
Jersey.
Street.
Oh, okay, so it's really close to
So
where that is,
Turner
that
Street
property.
to, Anderson,
Okay, and that's.
almost to the China King.
Okay, so that's, okay.
And it's just that little
There's not
path
much
that goes around it.
in there then, between the gas station and that property, there's just a very tiny space there before it
Well,
starts
there's a
Central.
few houses.
But is it,
So
is
once
it
you go
the
past
house
Turner, I believe it's
past Turner's?
this, the
not
third
on Turner.
house
Okay,
begins Central Catholic.
okay, okay.
Too
On
bad
that
we
side
can't get
of
it
the
all
road.
together.
I know, it'd be really nice to make that whole area
Yeah.
consistent and whatever.
China King, is it called?
I guess the other thing I was asking too, cause I know that there had been discussion at some point about like landscaping things,
What's that again?
like landscaping and things. Is that specifically for the around the town hall area, or what, when y'all were talking about like landscaping type
Messes
stuff,
things up.
what is that
Do
related?
you mean, so we have a landscaping contract with a contractor who currently does landscaping on town Packlet properties?
Okay.
Or are you talking about the landscaping that was done up in O'Brien's?
I'm not sure, I know that's what I mean, not, cause I remember a discussion about landscaping, and I didn't know if it related directly to like things we were planning as part of the town stuff, like as part of what we would be doing to beautify our town, or if this was like specific spots, so is that, it was more specific spots than an overall haul of landscaping in our town. Cause I mean, I know that, what are our options down here in the flats? I know that the trees and stuff have been planted and things down there, but you know, some of that water that sits down there and the way that things are eroding, I mean, is it possible that we start looking into planting things even more down there to help against that kind of stuff? Or in other areas where the stormwater issues are problems, I know that like having trees in place and things makes a huge difference. And even things like programs with like Clemson and stuff, I know that for a while they're like, if you cut down certain trees, they'd give you a tree to plant, or perhaps if they offer a program to help with stormwater and stuff, maybe they will offer trees that we could plant and help with that kind of stuff.
So the stormwater master plan is, we were given $50,000 from Community Development Block Grant and approximately $28,000 from the South Carolina Rural Infrastructure Authority. And the town's putting up the other amount, which we are estimating to be approximately $100,000. What they're gonna do is they're gonna map out what's existing here. The stormwater system was built, 100 years ago or more, and it was pretty extensive when it was done. I mean, you see the granite troughs that are on the side of the road, there's pipes that go through the walls, there's stuff that's underground. You may or may not know that a lot of the sidewalks, especially in the mill area, are actually stormwater culverts. So water actually dumps into there. Some of those things are collapsed. Some of those are filled up with mud and dirt and various debris and stuff. So one of the first things they're gonna do is to map out what's existing, what's all out there, and then put together a priority list of what needs to be addressed. And then as council, we'll review that priority list and start looking at where we're going to address things. And there may be some situation as we go through that putting in different types of, I guess the word is, fauna or foliage, to put in certain areas to kind of help soak up in there. There may be need for retention ponds, detention ponds, and rain gardens, to be able to accept some of that water and also filter that water before it gets out to the river itself. So, I think that's what you're kind of
Yes.
referring to, and yes, we are, that
Will
would
we
be,
be working with that as well, like with
the
the
planning commission may not necessarily be working with that.
Okay,
I don't know, but that may be, because there is a section within here that does actually talk about areas as they get closer to the river. And I think there's some zoning of what can and cannot be in those areas. That may be something that we can address, but I'll look more into that and find out. And your main thing you're looking for is the landscaping as it relates to, the stormwater.
yes, like what we can effectively attempt to do even before we start digging into the culverts and stuff, if there's anything that could be, you know what I mean? I know that that's a big issue, and I know we're waiting on a comprehensive plan, I just don't know where specifically everything falls yet. You know, is that stuff that we talk about at the planning commission? Is that stuff, you know what I mean? There's certain things that.
As it relates to private properties that are out there, that may be something that you may want to include in the new zoning ordinance and make recommendations in certain areas, or make recommendations that property owners put certain types of stuff that are out there. Some of the trees I think that you're talking about is, I think Bradford pear is considered an invasive tree.
Yes.
And so if you cut down a Bradford pear, Clemson University will provide you a new tree, to replace it on there. But, there may be some other stuff. I've seen where in Georgia they used to have butterfly gardens, cause, Rosalind Carter was big into butterfly gardens. And so the state of Georgia actually provide grant assistance to build gardens that will attract butterflies.
That's really cool too, and yeah, that's really.
Yeah. You have to be careful with trees, especially in these gutters and things, because the roots go down and destroy it.
Right, willow trees and things like that, yeah, you have to be.
We'll move on to the comment section, which we're
Okay.
kind of already in.
Yeah, we've already done the comments. Do you
I don't have any
anything?
comments. Is there any comments from y'all?
Any comments?
No.
Any questions, any comments or thoughts?
I got some issues in my area.
Okay.
Someone came to me,
What's that?
someone came to me about the gutters, need something, on, what street is on? Woodland Circle. I have to show you a picture.
Okay. You want to show it to me afterwards then?
Oh, it'll be fine.
Are there any other comments?
Oh, I'm just curious, is it in relation to like the gutters on their homes, or like we were talking about with the stormwater and the
On the
problems?
side of the road.
Yes.
Manhole is dirt, it's breaking up.
Yeah,
And
that,
it's not going all the way down the street either.
yeah, that's why I've been asking like what our role is in that, cause especially after like the issues with Enchanted building the homes over there and that man's stuff getting flooded and stuff, like, I hate for people's stuff to be destroyed
The
like
water's
that.
going over.
If we can help that in any way, if there's a way we can do something to.
We've gotten some calls and concerns, for, Fuller Street as it comes into Brewster, and stormwater that's coming off of the newly built homes that are out there. And, are the storm drains open, are they closed, are they clogged up? If it rains really hard, there's one particular property owner where the backyard gets completely flooded. But this is part of that stormwater, is seeing where the water is going, where is it supposed to be going, and what we need to do to fix some of this stuff. In some of these situations, before those homes were built, a lot of this wouldn't have been issues because the water was just raining directly onto the ground and getting soaked into the ground. And once you add a lot of impervious surfaces, driveways, roofs, that sort of thing, then you start having some more issues with stormwater.
Where was that property again? That's
On Woodland Street, it's in the curve.
and they're getting stuck with a bunch of water just sitting on their stuff.
Yeah, the water's, it's not even going all the way down the street, so it's going over across the street, and it's tearing it up. The road is tearing it up. It's backing all the way up.
I'm gonna check this out, and, as we start going through, we're almost done, we're almost ready to send out the RFP, to find a contractor to do this. It's taking a little bit longer when you get a grant from first off, we're doing a grant to do a study to see what's all out there. There's, one of the issues that I've kind of run into is there are pipes that are going underground. One of the pipes that I always kind of look at is, if you've probably seen, there's a pond outside the golf room right now. There's a storm drain that's underneath that pond. It's not supposed to be a pond, and it's currently clogged up. Where does that water go? I'm not exactly sure. I have not seen pipes that are just dumping out water into the river. I've seen creeks that dump out into the river down there, but I'm not exactly sure where all that goes and how it kind of collects down at the flats. There's a lot of water that goes underground and eventually, I'm assuming, goes to the river. But how does it get there? And are there collapsed pipes that are out there? And so part of this would be identifying where all those pipes are, what's collapsed, what's caved in, what's clogged up, so that we can put together a plan of what we need to address. And the reason being is I don't want us to address something up at the top of the hill when we can address all we want to up here, but if we don't fix what's down in the flats first, it's not gonna do a hill of beans.
That could cause sinkholes, couldn't it?
What's this?
Sinkholes.
Sinkholes, yes. There was recently a sinkhole that was out on Dogwood Circle out there. Dropped out a hole that was about this big around, and it's about 2.5, 3 feet deep. We got that repaired though.
Any more comments from the council?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Adjourn.